The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Youmans.
28-25 Baltimore as the Dallas Cowboys fall to 1-2 in the 2024 season. A Week 3 loss at home at AT&T Stadium as we welcome you in to Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company. It is not a Victory Monday, unfortunately. Instead, it's a 1-2 Monday, where the Cowboys are 1-2 for the first time since 2020. We have Patrik "No C" Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. Gentlemen, you were both at the game. You were both sitting at AT&T Stadium, where now 3 games in a row the Dallas Cowboys have fallen. And oh, how that home field advantage has turned so quickly.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. You know what I mean?
You hit that kind of nicely. That was good.
I'm an excellent singer.
Are you really?
Yes.
I don't believe that at all.
Ooh.
Wow.
That was kind of a shot.
I
Wow.
don't believe that.
Just coming for me like that.
Yeah.
Are we talking like
Jeez.
like Cowboys run defense singer or like a Ravens rushing attack singer?
Somewhere in the middle, not quite
okay,
a
not
Ravens
quite
rushing attack.
one way or the other.
That would be Adele levels of singing. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you know what I mean? This is not great. It's like how Kesha is a singer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really not ideal.
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Did you just compare yourself to Kesha?
In more ways than one.
Nice. Okay. Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Solid. Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
So
Plain and simple.
You know, this reminds me of, unfortunately, reminds me of a certain stretch of the Jason Garrett era where the Cowboys couldn't get their act together at home. So in order to stack wins, they had to do it on the road. Now we'll see if that, is actually what's happening in 2024, because obviously what's coming up, you got the Giants and then you got Pittsburgh. But and of course you got the 49ers. But, yeah, and speaking of the 49ers, it's another week in which the Cowboys did not take advantage of the 49ers dropping a game, right? 49ers are 1-2. Cowboys, could have had a leg up on them. The Eagles took care of their business by
They played trash.
They did, but all it took was one chunk play, Dallas Goedert, in the final quarter, in the waning seconds. And that's football. Right? That's football. The Saints played down to their competition, and they got bit in the backside for it. And the Cowboys didn't take advantage of the 49ers losing, and they didn't keep pace with the Eagles, who are now 2-1. But I mean, this Cowboys team has a lot to figure out. And yeah, I mean, we could, and we probably will at some point this very short week, touch on, there's a silver lining. They came alive in the fourth quarter. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Because for the first 3 quarters, which then makes for the previous 11 quarters of ineptitude on both sides of the ball, that previous 11 quarters far outweighs for me what we saw in that one quarter. So yeah, they came awake, wonderful, and maybe they can build on that, wonderful. But the fact is, like you said, Kyle, you've now dropped 3 at home, and it doesn't have to be this way, but it is this way, right? So defense, where you at? Offense, where are you at? And special teams is special teams. Brandon Aubrey is a freaking monster.
Yep. It's unfortunate that he's
that.
getting lost in the shuffle right now, because he's doing historic things.
I don't know that he's getting lost in the shuffle. I think, if anything, this is amplifying just how good and how much of a weapon he actually is. Yeah. Because when
I just
you
want to
can't
enjoy it in a way.
I get it. But when you
I don't want to enjoy it when you're getting blown out by New Orleans and you're getting beat by Baltimore.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's just that when you have a kicker who can just trot out there and boot a 65-yarder because your offense can't move the ball, I mean, you got to celebrate the small things, and Brandon Aubrey is not a small thing. It's just Cowboys fans remember when the offense was virtually unstoppable and you couldn't kick to save your life.
Yeah.
Now you can kick it from the parking lot and it's split in the uprights, but you can't get a touchdown for the most part to save your life, the fourth quarter notwithstanding.
Nicole Hutchison cracked me up yesterday when she said Brandon Aubrey's going to hold out next offseason.
Oh, no.
And deservedly so, man. Give that man the bag. But I think the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of...
bag isn't that big. So,
yeah. For a small
Yeah, I was
bag.
going to say, all things considered, kicker bag isn't...
We can afford that
bag.
bag.
Yeah.
We can afford that.
They're going to reset the market at kicker to Brandon Aubrey.
Exactly so. Shouts to Nicole. I think the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of demons they need to exercise.
Yep.
You know, these are things that we've known since going into the offseason and a big part of last year. The run game is suspect. The offensive play calling to a certain extent at certain points of the game, you question. What's going on there. You question, inside handoffs in the third and fourth quarter when you're, really trying to claw back, and Dak is just absolutely dicing them up. He really was in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, when he had time to throw. Another demon there with your offensive line and protection and left tackle, I think is it's tough right now. Again, you have rookies there, so it's a lot to consider. And then most of all, the biggest demon in the room, this is the long legs of Dallas Cowboys season, is the run game, run defense. It is
poor.
It is poor. It is poor.
I think that might be putting it nicely.
Yeah, it's pure unadulterated poverty. Is what it is. We just saw a stat here: 464 rushing yards allowed in the past 2 games alone. That's not going to win you football games.
It's not, especially when you have great run teams coming into this building and then going on the road. I mean, the run game travels. Obviously, we know this, and this is why now at home, 3 games in a row, you're getting absolutely demolished in the run game. It is sad to see. It really is, because there are a lot of talented playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, and you're just not seeing it click. And I don't know. I couldn't tell you what it is, because it's almost unexplainable.
I can tell you what it is. For the second week in a row, they've not been able to seal the edges. They've just not been able to seal the edges. Go back and look at the first drive from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. It basically went like this: edge, drop down, edge, chunk play, edge, touchdown. They were cooking the edges because they did a great job for the majority of the game. I want to say 3.25 quarters of keeping Derrick Henry from dominating in the A and B gap, which was one of my keys. You have to keep him from doing that, and you have to force him outside. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where he wore them down, and then you started to see those chunk plays come up the middle. But for the most part, they were just not the Cowboys. They were just not sealing the edges. And whether it been Lamar Jackson or whomever else, Zay Flowers on handoffs and end arounds and things like that, Justice Hill on handoffs and end arounds, give the Ravens credit. They did a good job of understanding that the Cowboys were struggling protecting their edges on run defense, and they attacked them full blown. And then offensively, you have to look at self-inflicted wounds. Time and again, self-inflicted wounds. You finally get a drive going. What do? You get a holding penalty. That's a drive killer.
Yeah, that was big.
And then on the next drive, you finally get down there and you're moving and you can make something happen, and then CeeDee Lamb doesn't secure the ball and it's a fumble, and you lose that fumble.
He almost loses the fumble right before that.
Right. So, and then so it went, because there were other drive killing penalties, whether it been false start numerous times. There were more than one false start penalty, more than one holding penalty on the offensive line. Your offensive line had a very, very bad day at the office yesterday. Better said.
Yeah.
Awful day. And not just being undisciplined with the penalties. We're talking about pressures as well. So I know a lot of people, because someone said yesterday in reply to my tweet that the offensive line, my tweet said the offensive line was a turnstile yesterday and it's undisciplined, right? A lot of penalties. They said, well, when you start 2 rookies, this is what you get. Okay. So the problem I have with that is it wasn't only your rookies that were getting walked. It was, in fact, Terrence Steele, and it was Zach Martin, and it was Tyler Smith. And Tyler Smith also had penalties as well. Each one of those guys allowed at least 5 pressures, with the exception of, I think, Cooper Beebe had 3 pressures. And Cooper Beebe was the only one who didn't average more than half the time 1 versus 1. Right. So he was taking a lot of combos, which tracks because he's the center. But I say all of that to say each one of the 5 men up front, including your future first ballot Hall of Famer, basically had a bad day and got taught some lessons yesterday.
Yeah.
So when your quarterback is under siege like that, and that's not letting Dak Prescott off the hook because, yeah, he came alive in the second half, specifically the fourth quarter with the
100%.
3 touchdowns. That was ridiculous. But I think he started to see some ghosts in that first half, and it impacted his throws because there were some throws that he could have made. I remember a deep shot. Brandon Cooks had his guy beat. You drop that in the bucket. If that's a dot, that might be a touchdown because I think Cooks burns the safety, even though the safety had kind of an angle there. But that was an overthrow. I think the next player, the play after that, Zeke, third down, you try to dump it off, and it's a bad throw to the flat, right? So I think your pressure started to kind of get to Dak Prescott. Credit to him for getting, things back aligned in the fourth quarter, but too little, too late. Right.
And kind of picking back off of what Micah said about, playing Superman, I think a big part of that was Dak, forcing it, and it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds in the first half. And even in the third, whenever Dak fumbles his own.
Yeah, he dropped it. He dropped his own. Yeah, he just went to escape the pocket and it hit his arm it was
in his hand. It was just in his hand and it just drops.
It just fell.
Granted, he was able to recover his own fumble there.
But it goes to how the day went.
It goes to how the day went, and it goes to, it's like, how are we seeing this from even now the leaders and stars of this team? You know what I mean? It's one thing to have guys that you bring in to sort of supplement, the talent around you, but now it's the talent that is letting you down. CD was a huge part for me as far as what a terrible game for CD, honestly.
And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, in the second segment, because I do want to dive into the body language conversation. Dak kind of downplayed it yesterday, but it was an impact, and it made an impact. Kind of going back to what you both were saying about Dak and some of the struggles that he had throughout the game. Threw into a tight window on 35.3% of pass attempts in week 3. That's the highest he's thrown into a tight window, highest percentage since his rookie year in week 4.
It's insanity.
There's no separation. There's no creativity. There's a stale just feeling around this offense, and I think it stems from not having a liable run game, from not having a legitimate run game that you can fall back on, you can help set up play action. Nobody's fooled by this offense. It's CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, cover those guys, and you're good. And there were a couple times where Kevontae Turpin came alive in the fourth.
Finally.
Jalen Tolbert came alive in the fourth. Brandon Cooks had a couple plays where he was smart about it. I thought the PI where he ripped the guy down by his horse collar.
Very smart.
That is a brilliant play on his part.
Very smart. I said it in
Make
the press
it
box.
as obvious as possible. That's a smart veteran move, but he didn't get any separation. There was one time he routed up the guy at the line of scrimmage and could not pull away. Yeah. There's no separation on this offense. There's no creativity, and it's stale. This stale offense is awful.
I want you to say that number again. What was the tight window percentage for Dak?
35%.
You know what the tight window percentage was for Lamar Jackson yesterday?
Gosh.
Was it zero?
Oh, wow.
0.
12
Not a
completions.
single. He only had 12 because he only had to complete 12. But of those 12 throws, not a single one of them was into tight window percentage. The difference in separation was very evident. And even with motion or the lack thereof, the Cowboys, I mean, there have been times where they've had motion 40-45% of the time. Yesterday, less than 25% of the time. And then the pressure starts to impact a lot of things. It starts to impact the play calling. We went into that game yesterday, I'm thinking, and I said it on Friday, this is the key. You got to drag Roquan Smith and force him to carry a guy like Jake Ferguson up the seam and just out of the middle of the field. And what did we see? Because so much pressure, it was a whole lot of run and sit down, run and sit down, run and sit down, right there in the middle of the field. Oh, that's feeding right into what Roquan Smith wants to do in that linebacker core. So one thing led to the next thing, led to the next thing, and then you add in penalties and just lack of execution. You talk about body language, not securing the ball, some throws that Dak Prescott wants back over the course of the first 3 quarters. And again, yes, you could look at the fourth quarter and say, okay, something to build on. That's true. But that's not what I care to talk about right now because you lost and you didn't have to lose.
You did not play well.
You did not play well.
Did not play well. Josh just brought it up. CeeDee Lamb, body language, all of that is a conversation because right now it's so early. You can fix everything X's and O's wise as you go along, whether it's the players stepping up, coaches stepping up, scheme changing, whatever it may be. You can fix the X's and O's. A lot of times what you can't fix is a mentality. And if a team has that mentality continue to unravel in week 3 of the NFL season, it's going to be a long, long year. So we're going to talk about the impact of what we saw on Sunday. 28-25, Baltimore takes down Dallas in week 3. We'll be right back with more Talkin' Cowboys right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this portion of the show is brought to you by Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, trusted since 1877. Got some fun Quaker Oats things coming up later in the week. I'm going to wait for Isaiah to get back because it was really, really cool. Some fan-inspired stuff.
Oh, really?
Coming later in the
week.
week.
We love the fan-inspired stuff.
Quaker codes over there.
If you're Mike in New York, you may know what I'm talking about.
I feel like
I got it. We'll talk about it when Isaiah gets back. So stay tuned. All right.
Oats on the internet.
Oats on the internet. It's right there. Everybody's sad. 28-25. It's sad oats this morning, but it's still oats. So
it's still oats.
It makes your day better.
It does bring out the good, after all.
There you go. It need to.
Well, it may be some oats pregame as a pregame workout.
Honestly,
pregame meal.
I thought that's what they had in the bottles. You know what I mean?
We need to get some oats. Just some oats on the field.
It wasn't that. Yeah, they would have won by 40.
Exactly.
Some oaty pre-workout.
Not with that performance. There's no oats involved, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh! So instead of a 40 burger, it needs to be an oat fody.
An Odie burger.
Fody.
A Fody. F-O-A-T.
Yeah.
Fody.
Fody.
We can make that work. Whataburger, we'll talk. All right.
Sound like you're from the Bay talking Fody.
28-25. I just want to run down a couple of these stats from yesterday, and everybody's probably already seen them, but it's pretty jarring. 456 yards of total offense allowed by the defense, 274 yards. Last time they allowed over 270 yards of total rushing attack, 2020, week 13, against the Baltimore Ravens.
Mike Nolan.
Yeah, the Mike Nolan defense. Passing net. Dak Prescott threw for 361 yards. A lot of that was late. But 51 yards on the ground. 51 yards on the ground. Just not good enough from a ground game standpoint. Dak threw it 51 times. 7 of those targets were to CeeDee Lamb. He caught 4 of them for 67 yards. And, it was apparent. Tom Brady talked about it. Coach McCarthy was asked about it. Dak Prescott was asked about it. And CeeDee Lamb did not speak to the media following the 28-25 loss. So it does open the conversation of what is going on whenever it comes to the body language and the talking on the sideline. I mean, the entire Fox truck had a different angle of the interaction with Dak where he says, I'm going to be here all day. I'm not going anywhere. Throw me the blanking ball. I mean, there were a lot of things. It wasn't very hard to read the lips of CeeDee Lamb in that occasion. But what does that tell you about what is happening and the frustration building on the offensive side?
Well, at least it tells me that guys give a damn.
Which is good.
So that's a start.
Yeah.
But you got to build on that. But they still care. That's why they're getting frustrated. That's why the body language is showing up. That's why you see CeeDee Lamb in the end zone pounding on the turf with both hands. Like, what's going on? Throw me the ball. And then, of course, he was frustrated with the officials as well. Then defensively, you look on the sideline, and what do you see? DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons kind of jawing at each other. And obviously, it was, a brother-to-brother thing. And any one of us who has siblings, like I have brothers, sometimes it's just tough love, man. It's like I feel away, you feel away, things are not going as we want them to go. Get out of my face. So, I mean, they're good now. I spoke with both of them in the locker room. But the passion is there. The want is there. The care is there. Where's the execution, though? That's the second consecutive week we're talking about lack of execution. And you're hearing that now from the players. Micah Parsons saying guys want to be Superman. Stop trying to be Superman. Stay in your gap. Stay in your lane. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's saying the same thing. Play your position and trust that the person next to you is going to do their thing. And there was another person last night who said, I think Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, Trayvon Diggs said it as well. When he said, well, when a guy gets out of his gap, well, now there's a big hole right there that, for run defense, you can just run right through or whatever the case may be. And then offensively, yes, CeeDee Lamb wants the ball. There's not enough pressure being taken off of him by the other receivers, obviously. And then you talk about a game plan where it's a lot of run and sit for Jake Ferguson in his first game back versus, carrying him down the seam, trying to get him into space where he can do some yak damage. And we know Jake Ferguson can do some yak damage. Frustration tells me they give a damn. That's a great starting point. But it is wholly irrelevant if you can't get the execution to marry with the passion, because then you're just a passionate loser, right? So be a passionate winner and get your execution together.
It would have been really nice to see him at training camp, Like,
it would have been, yeah.
I think granted, I'm frustrated. I really am, and I know he is too. But you look at this and you say, it was here at training camp at the Star where CeeDee Lamb said, well, this is my training camp right here. We're getting ready for Cleveland. That week one,
Didn't
the
even
performance
put on
that
pads.
He had. Exactly. And he's like, this is my training camp. Okay. Well, then what was week 2? What's week 3? You know what I mean? Like, it would have been nice had that worked out for him. You know what I mean? Had week 1 been his full training camp. He's definitely still ramping up to CeeDee Lamb that we know, the CeeDee Lamb we know and love. To fumble the ball in the red zone.
That can't happen.
That cannot happen. The drop in the I think it was the third quarter.
Yep.
Cannot happen.
Dude,
the ball is perfectly placed
against Hunter Lipke in Miami for that fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is basically what CD just did.
You did that.
And he almost fumbled it on the play prior, too.
You did that.
Imagine how different a game it would have been to go up 10-14 in that moment. And you give the defense a little bit of help. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's frustrating. It really is. Clearly, they're frustrated on the sideline, too. This is them playing. I'm not playing. I wish I could, know? It is really, really frustrating. I understand where everybody's coming from. But man, I really wish we would have had CD at camp. This is kind of where the ugly head rears, because it was those snaps are vital.
Yeah,
clicking with your quarterback when your last game was Green Bay. It's obvious, but you also understand why he held out, and that's a whole different conversation.
And there was also the time late in the game, fourth quarter, comeback fully in motion at that point, and he's off to the sideline with his helmet off. Not even in the sideline, in the white line. He's off to the side, crouched down with his helmet off, and he's just kind of either catching his breath or, I don't know, maybe he's shaking up or whatever it may be, but his helmet was off and he was outside the white line. So it was still one of those things where you looked at it as, what is happening in this moment? And I think it was a couple plays later, it was Turpin touchdown, something like that. So
I think when it comes to CeeDee Lamb, first and foremost, we have to understand that he processes his anger in real time differently. And I say that because
everybody does.
Right. And I say that because this situation has come up before versus the 49ers in San Francisco. He was off to the side, right? And everybody was like, oh, he's disengaged. He doesn't care. Well, even he spoke to that a few weeks after, or maybe even directly after, when he was calmer, and he admitted he has to do better with the optics of how he processes. But he said when he gets in his head like that, he processes better off to himself. So that being said, when you're talking about the optics of him during the comeback, he's sitting there. I'm sure he was still pissed off, still frustrated. The optics not good, and I think he understands they're not good. And to his admission a couple of seasons ago, he needs to improve upon the optics of that. Yeah. But I love that these guys are pissed off. I love that they're frustrated. I love seeing them jaw at each other on the sideline because, again, it tells me you care, and at least that can light a fire to try to burn the rest of the forest down over the course of the next several games. However, you just have to go and do it. So, I mean, it would be much worse if we were not talking about this type of body language, where it's like guys were not frustrated and the CeeDee Lamb wasn't pounding on the turf in anger, because then it'd be like, oh, they've checked out.
I would rather have that over the latter. I agree.
Yeah, I'd rather that.
The one thing, actually, there's two things here. The first one is I asked that same question last night. What do you think about the body language and how things have been handled from a sideline standpoint? I asked it to Barry, Isaiah, and Nate in a post-game show. And all three of those guys have been in a locker room. They've been on the sideline. And all three of them agreed you can't do that to that extent. I think you can find a middle ground where you're still passionate, you're still emphatic, you're still frustrated, but you're not lashing out. And that's ultimately, and I thought Barry probably did the best job last night of outlining that fact of saying, guys, there's a lot on the line and a long season to go. You cannot start chipping away at these relationships right now. You got to build these relationships now. You can't chip away at it. And if you're lashing out, there's an opportunity to build off of that. There's an opportunity to say there's a motivation factor to it. But you also have a bigger chance at maybe trying to take away from that relationship and creating a rift between you and your team. The second part of it, too, is you mentioned some of the stars that were talking in the locker room and saying, we've got to be more disciplined. We've got to be better at executing. We've got to do our jobs better. The same guys that were talking, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs, you go back on film and they are also getting washed. They are also getting beat. They are also in the wrong spot. It's everyone. Yep. Yes, the stars are going to get the interviews and the conversations and the attention because that's what stars do. You win, they get the attention. They lose, they get the attention. They're trying to make it a team thing. I get it. It is everyone that deserves a little bit of a blame to what is going on right now.
No, and the fans made it apparent too. They were booing the Dallas Cowboys in our own home, and you saw even those wheel routes to Zeke. You know what I mean? Those got booed, man. Like they were really upset.
But shouts out to a guy like Trayvon Diggs, for example, because he didn't try to spread the mustard as far as the blame is concerned. He took it. He stood in front of that train.
Trayvon's always been great about that.
And he was very poignant in what he was saying. He said that for example, kind of narrowing it down to that third down play that ultimately ended the game. He was like, that was SH blank 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 of me. He said, they want me here. I've got to make that play regardless of if that is the game breaker play or if it's just a third down play in the first quarter. Regardless of situation and context, I've got to be better. I've got to make that play. So they're taking ownership. There are guys that are taking ownership like Trayvon Diggs. And when you're talking about your franchise cornerback, that's the kind of accountability you want to see. So it's not just that the guys are kind of chirping at each other. It's also the guys looking in the mirror like Trayvon Diggs saying, man, that I've got to be better. Like, I can look around this locker room and say this person, that person. He's like, no, it's me. And if you can get 53 guys looking in the mirror and saying it's me, it's not him, then that's when you can begin to really improve.
It's another thing to also, have a play like that. You know what I mean? Granted, his was at the very end of the game, but if you have a bad play like Kalen Carson did, a terrible whiff, and we talked about it on the show.
That was an effort play. That was a lack of effort play.
100%.
I thought you were about to say it was an effort play.
No, qualify. It was in the category of effort, but it was a lack of effort.
It was negative effort.
Yeah, it was negative.
Negative effort play. I think his response to that after that, he got really physical.
He did.
He got really physical after that.
Went through the roof after that.
It really did. And that that to me speaks more than, like owning up to it at the end of the game, being like, you know what, I played terrible. Like, show me, man.
Yeah.
And I think that you have the opportunity.
You're right,
obviously,
but the
to
difference
do
in
later.
that being that there was no opportunity for Trayvon to make good after that. That was ball game after that. So now it's make good on it against the New York Giants, which is your next team in a span of 4 days. But really quickly, talking to your point, Kyle, I get exactly what Barry and those guys are saying, and Big Nate. They know. I mean, they know. They've played at this level. They've been in these locker rooms. I will also add to that, though, that it goes to the foundation of the relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So if you and I have had our discussions offline where one in particular got heated, and then what happened after that? We talked it out, and we were better than before we had that.
I agree. Yeah.
It goes to the foundation. So if the solidarity of this locker room, we can say they're not showing it on the field right now. That is 100% true.
Yep.
But we also know, we, having walked through this locker room every day, and we'll walk through it again in about an hour or so from now, the solidarity is there. If it weren't there, then I would be concerned about this guy chirping at this guy, chirping at that guy, because those fractures are going to just grow, and they're going to spider web like on a windshield, right? But when I know DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons are like this, when I know that Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons are like this, CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, best of friends, Ezekiel, when I know that's the case, I actually invite you to give tough love and challenge your brother like that, and for them to do the inverse, because the optics aren't great, fine, but if we're talking athletes and we're talking competitors, that's what I want to see. And knowing that the foundation is strong, I'm much less concerned about, oh, well, you're chipping away at my confidence. No, you're my brother. Treat me like that. If I'm messing up out there, call me out on that, Josh. And I would hope that you would want me to do the same. And once we get through with this tough love and get through this hard time, then we can be good again. But let's get through this.
Hard times make better men.
Right. Let's get through this. Like, there's a time to rub your brother's back, and there's a time to look him in the face and say, hey, you've got to be better than what you're doing right now. And I invite the same. So the fact that those variables are there, I'm not worried about the locker room fracturing. I'm worried about winning these games. And this is how you got to win games. Get in the face of your brother and say, I'm going to do better, but you have to match me.
Yeah. And that should be the mentality going forward. Like, currently, right now, as we sit, this is a bad team.
As we sit, yes.
As we sit right now, but you don't have bad players. It's
no, there's all pros on every level.
Right.
It is crazy to me. But and this is something that McCarthy has said time and time again so far this month, and it's still September 23rd, but this is September football. And I felt this way, obviously, having a number one record right now. You're playing these really great teams that were great last year too. And but Baltimore is 1-2 in the same position that we are currently. They beat us, granted, but their record is the same.
Yeah.
So I think you have to take it with a grain of salt and understand, like, okay, this is a new install. You have a brand new coordinator coming into this season. It's not the same, and it's a completely different personnel from last year too, and how he utilizes it. Isaiah said that on this podcast before as well. So it's not going to be, just flicking on a switch and it's like, oh, it's going to work now. It's like, this is why you need this hard times. This is hopefully, looking up after this. But then again, you have the 49ers coming into town, who are also 1-2.
Not just that, you have the Detroit Lions coming to town.
It's tough to judge a team at this point in the season, but we're at this point of the season, so all we can say is
you can only judge by what's
they're a bad football team.
They're a bad football team
right now,
playing bad football.
Yes,
not bad players.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's a chance to try and find a way to rectify that this upcoming week.
Absolutely.
You got a short week ahead. Let's take our second break. When we come back, is it time to press the panic button? And if not, which I don't think any of us are pressing it yet, fans might be. If it's not time to press the panic button, when will be that time? When we come back, more Talkin Cowboys right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. It was kind of a...
I don't have much to smile about, but Invisalign is still
Invisalign is great. Thanks, Josh, for...
Yeah, Invisalign is great. Their teeth in here, just trust me, and Invisalign is great. Invisalign
does their job. The Cowboys didn't do theirs on Sunday. 28-25, the final. Okay, 1-2. Mm-hmm. You get the impressive win in week 1. Everything clicks, right? Everybody's excited. Everybody's saying, oh, they're going to be 2-0, maybe 3-0. They could have a chance to go into Thursday Night Football in the first short week of the year. Quick turnaround and play the Giants to go to 4-0 this year. Well, that's not the case.
No.
Are you hitting the panic button now? You turning over the Quaker Oats Bowl, you hitting the panic button at this point? And if you aren't, when is that time for you?
I'm doing the dad getting a donut. You know what I mean? I'm doing one of these on the panic button.
Oh,
you know what
okay.
I mean? I'm just like, oh, maybe no.
Tingly fingers. Yeah.
Not quite yet. Not quite hitting the panic button. If we win against the Giants, that'll be 2-2. However, that is also not a good team. Mm-hmm. So I'm not optimistic after we beat the Giants. We will beat the Giants. I'm pretty convinced in that aspect. San Fran.
That's the one?
San Francisco. That to me, after the bye week, correct, right?
Yes. Yeah. Week 8.
That is a prove it game. Mm-hmm. That is where I'll be headed either way. Positive, negative. To me, that is the barometer of the season for me until we get to Thanksgiving.
Okay. That's a good one.
No, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. 1-2, it's not the end of the world. Still September football. You got a long ways to go. But I'm not going to take my panic button and put it in my carry-on and not bring it back out until like week 16, right? No, it's going to be right in the holster because it's 1-2. I want to say if they drop this game to a bad team in the New York Giants, that I'm willing to, but I think then you bounce back and you beat the Steelers. I keep looking at the Detroit Lions. That's your next home game. Mm-hmm. You've lost now 3 in a row at home, 2 of which were blowouts, 1 of which was a playoff blowout.
Think back to the Lions game. That was the one
and then
before that too.
Right, and how close that was.
That could have been a loss.
Controversial, ineligible, man, man not declared down.
They're going to come in with a vengeance.
They are. Jeez, man. You lose against the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? You lose against the Giants. I'm slapping the panic button. You lose against the Giants, and I'm slapping the panic button. And you got to get on the wire and look for possible trade scenarios and who's in free. Yeah. Because if you're losing to the Giants, because the conversation right now is you're beating bad teams, you're losing to good teams or teams that have the potential to be good, like the Baltimore Ravens. But if you go into New York and you let that team beat you, and you go to 1-3 because you let that team beat you, where's your mental? What does your mental do going in? Because for there you got to go into Pittsburgh, which is notoriously hostile territory. And then you have to come back and face the Lions. So I think that possibly losing to the Giants would create like this butterfly effect that, and then guess what? You got a bye week and then you face the 49ers. It could cascade from there. And that's my fear, is that if you lose against the Giants, it starts to cascade.
So kind of along those same lines, and to kind of give my panic button scenario, it's one of the next two games. You have to win both of these games for 100%. Me not to hit the panic button, because I'm hovering over it right now. Because and it's funny because Dak Prescott walked into the locker room yesterday. You guys were there. He said, "Hop off if you want to. Hop off the bandwagon. Hop off the train if you want to." Maybe it be a motivational thing. Maybe it be just a conversation starter. Whatever it is, he's saying, stop believing in us now, and you'll probably pay down the line, or at least that's how they believe it. If you drop one of these next two games, you will be below 500 before you play the Detroit Lions, who want to absolutely kick your butt at home. You'll go into a bye week, and sure, you might get right in the bye week. That's fantastic. I have zero faith that you beat the San Francisco 49ers, and try and prove me wrong, because you have never beaten the San Francisco 49ers under Mike McCarthy in a way, no 2020, that doesn't really count, in a way that gives me hope you can beat them in this 2024, the year of our Lord. There's no way. There's no way you're beating San Francisco right now.
And they're a 1-2 team.
Right now. And they're 1-2. They have their own problems. I still don't believe it.
But the demon
I still don't believe it.
Yeah, but the demon is the demon.
Okay.
The demon is that, and that is Pazuzu. Like that is a demon.
Zool.
Let me keep it further. The Atlanta Falcons look like a formidable opponent in the NFC, followed by the Eagles, who are now 2-1 and just beat the team that beat your ass last week, 44-17.
And
then you turn around and you play the Houston Texans at home. Guess what they want to do at AT&T Stadium? The target is on your back because you are the Dallas Cowboys. You have 2 weeks to figure it out, or you may just see this thing snowball into the worst season the Cowboys have seen in a long, long time. The panic button is right here. I'm not pressing it yet. But in a very short moment, if you lose one of these next two games and you do not get right as a football team, I'm hitting that thing, and I am by far blowing the thing up. In terms, not the team, but the panic button. I'm hammering it, man.
If you lose both of the next two games,
that I would take this bowl,
I'm sorry.
I would throw it through that window.
Sorry, if you use only one of the next two games,
lose only one of the two, because even then you're 2-3. I don't see them.
You're still
beating.
Okay. Not okay, but
I'm not okay.
We're not hitting.
No, I'm hitting it if I lose one of the next two.
Okay.
If you're 2-3, I'm hitting it, because 2-4 Detroit,
look at what you're 2-3 walking into.
2-5 San Francisco, 2-6 Atlanta, 2-7 Philadelphia, 2-8. I mean, I don't have faith they beat any of those teams if they lose to either the Steelers or the Giants.
100% with you.
And if that's the case, 2-8 might be your future. It may not be. You can figure it out along the way. You can win some of those games. Do I think the Cowboys will be 2-8? No. But I do think they need to figure it out over the
It could snowball that way.
Yeah, that's how I feel like. For me, it's the Giants. You beat the Giants, and even if you lose to the Steelers after defeating the Giants, I'm not going to hit the panic button. It still doesn't feel great. We still have questions. We'll talk about it, like what the hell is going on? String together some wins, for crying out loud. But contrarily, if you lose to the Giants, the snowball is just there.
Endless.
It's waiting for you, dude. Yeah. So that could be the pivot point of what could end up being a terrible season. So please, I beseech thee, go into that stadium and dog walk them. And afterwards, we'll feel good. Yeah. We're not going to treat it like you beat the Ravens or the Saints or the Chiefs or the 49ers, but we will celebrate you having escaped a possible pivot point that would turn the season into hell on wheels. And we can then say, let's talk about the Steelers now. Are they, will they not? But then at that point, if they lose to the Steelers, I'll be upset, but I won't panic, because at least they avoided, theoretically, the landmine. I think New York Giants is the landmine.
I can kind of see some of the comments based off of that last rant I went on, just starting to pile up and saying, "Oh, you're not optimistic, whatever it may be. You might be a pessimist." I'm usually an optimist on this show. I try and be real as much as possible. I have my opinions, and yes, I'm around the team, and so I hear their opinions too. And there's a lot of times where I will back up what they're trying to do. I just don't see it right now. And I picked them to lose this week. I picked them to lose actually in almost the same score. 27-23 was my score.
Did what I did last week.
I got 1 point off. No, I picked the Ravens.
That's right.
So I was 1 point off from both scores. It was 28-25, and I was 1 point ahead of that. I picked a 4-point Ravens win, and it ended up being a 3-point Ravens win. So it was right around the score that I thought would happen. I thought they would lose this week because I didn't believe it going into it. It's the way that they've been beat, not only against New Orleans, but in the first 3 quarters against Baltimore. That's what's discouraging to me, and that's why I think this team has to get right, and they have to do it now.
Just very little fight. I'm seeing very little fight.
Finally saw
until
it in
the fourth quarter.
But even that might have been Baltimore letting off the gas. And then
prevent. They didn't. It
It
wasn't prevent. It was a lot of cover zero.
It was a lot of cover zero.
They were sending them.
And that's
they
when
stole
Dak comes
possession. Dak played lights out. I mean, there are a lot of things that happened.
Covered. I mean,
yeah.
So again, and I said it at the beginning of the show, and I said it 2 or 3 times. I care more about the previous 11 quarters more than I care about what we saw in the fourth quarter of this recent game, because the data supports that they are a bad team right now.
Yeah.
But it's also true that they might have come alive in the fourth quarter. It didn't
Something
matter.
might have clicked there.
Might have. It didn't matter in that game. Too little, too late. The only thing you can hope is that this team uses that and carries it over into Thursday on a short week and uses it to just flame broil the Giants. Because if you don't, then, yes, flip this bowl over and give me Mjolnir. Give me the hammer of Thor, and I'm smashing the panic button, because I can the foreshadowing of what that might come, what that might bring mentally to the locker room, from just the dynamics of now you have to start wondering exactly how much longer they would remain bought in.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous conversation. We're not happy. That's not the conversation right now. But you lose against the Giants, and it's a conversation.
Yes, it totally is. Totally is. If the fourth quarter gives me hope they can build on it. It didn't give me hope in the game. You can ask Barry and Isaiah and Nate. I was sitting there. I was like, they're not coming back. They're going to get close. They're going to do everything they can. I don't think they'll win this football game. Sure enough, they didn't. But what it does give me hope toward is building, like you said. And maybe Kavante Turpin has some confidence. Maybe Jalen Tolbert has some confidence. Dak Prescott has a little more trust in each of those guys, and it opens up the passing game a little bit more. You got to build on it. If not, it's all a waste. And I think if it wasn't for that fourth quarter, I think I would have picked the Giants this week. I don't know if I'll pick them. I'm still a little upset.
I'm
a little frustrated. I haven't decided it yet.
Same here.
But I can tell you what, if it was the same level of 28-6 where the Ravens were beating you down in the first 3 quarters, I think I would have picked New York this week, and I wouldn't have batted an eye at it.
At least you only have a couple of days to change the script, right?
What I want to see is, and I touched on it really quickly, CeeDee Lamb frustrated against the 49ers in San Francisco, that whole body language thing, and then we had this similar conversation, and then CeeDee Lamb went off over the course of the rest of the season.
Love it.
Do it again.
That'd be awesome.
Do it again.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We are going to take some phone calls tomorrow, maybe only a few. So you might want to get on the line early, 888-855-2297. It is a short week, and we are going to turn the page because that's what the Cowboys have to do. That's what we've got to do in a short week like this. From Sunday to Thursday, you don't have a ton of time to dwell on it. We're going to take a look ahead and give a quick preview to the Giants game on Thursday. So lots to look forward to in the week, and hopefully a rebound from your 1-2 Dallas Cowboys. For Chris Beam, Josh Rodriguez, Patrik Walker, I'm Kyle Youmans saying so long from the Star in Frisco. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,